Thank you, Your Worship. This is going to be a review of the draft capital budget as it sits right now. So in your binders, you'll have the draft capital budget. Under capital budget, it starts like this. So the first page of that is the estimated capital that we expect to have to spend over the next 5 years and how it will be either funded or financed. And as you can see, as we get into 24 and 25, and even in 22, we're looking at some debenture debt. Now, 22 includes $11.8 million for Southeast 17, which is going to be partially debenture financed. So that's what that $2.3 million is. The next page, next couple of pages is just a complete list of everything that's on the project in the capital budget for the next 5 years. And at the end is how we're going to fund it each one of those years as well. And then the pages after that are the listing and how it's going to be funded. Excuse me. And then there's another different breakdown of the listing again. And then the following pages are the grant, how we're going to use the grants and how we're going to use the reserves. And then it just goes on for 5 years. But as you can see, there's a significant amount of capital. Even if you take the $11.8 million out, there's a significant amount of capital that has to be, or that is in this budget for the next 5 years. Whether it has to be done or not it's what both the community service director, the IP&D director, and myself feel are important items to be on the budget. So with that, I'm going to turn it over first to Director Rowe is going to go through his capital budget, and then after he's done, Director Lefebvre will do his capital budget, and then we'll have, you can ask them any questions at any time throughout the process, and I'm going to leave it up to them. And if we make changes, I have it open here, I can make the change and see what happens.
So we're going to the community service tab? Okay. When you're ready, Director Rowe, I think everybody's here on the page. Everybody's good?
All good.
All right, thank you, Worship. So the first page you'll see is a master capital plan for community services outlining items from 2022 to 2026. The ones for 2022 are on the corresponding pages, individual sheets. We'll go to the first sheet. So this project is the highway signage under community services. The budget estimate is $100,000. This is a new initiative. And it is to replace and upgrade the town of Vegreville highway pylon signs on Highway 16. In 2019, the Economic Development Board worked with a company, Blanchett Neon, to create concepts for town of Vegreville highway signage. That came to council back in early 2020. The signs ranged anywhere from 30,000 to 125,000. And as part of my wayfinding plan, we put in about the highway pylon signage. So for those that don't know, when you're coming east or west into Vegreville on Highway 16, there's those little brown wooden signs that says Visit Vegreville, and had our population on there. So that was the signs that we're talking about replacing. And the concept behind that was to make it more attractive and pull people off 16 onto 16A and make their way to come and visit Vegreville. So, well, we have an RFP just about ready to go. Basically, it'll hinder on some budget amounts, but in the wayfinding plan, I presented that we could do some really nice signs for around the $50,000 range as opposed to the $125,000. And the 125,000 ones had digital LED boards with signage, but it was unrealistic because at 110 kilometers an hour, most people physically can't read that, the messages that are on there. So the idea was to downgrade it to something that was still very nice looking, backlit, and attractive, but said visit Vegreville, and encourage people as a part of signage to make their way into, on the off-ramp and come explore what our town has. So the proposed signage, again, will encourage the motorists off Highway 16. This would be funded from the general operating reserves out of goods purchased. Council last term had put money in the general operating reserves for those signs. And you look to the next page, that was, I took a concept from what was from Blanchette Neon, and so of course our logo would change on this, but this is what they had in, this was around the $50,000 range, this sign, and still very attractive. The RFP will ask for design concepts from a number of signage companies around the province. So we might get some lower prices, higher prices, different designs, but this is kind of what we were looking at.
Did we not have $200,000 in last year's budget for these signs? Go ahead, Paul.
We did have $200,000 that was to be funded out of the general operating reserve in last year's budget, yes.
Are you asking for another 100,000 in this? No?
No, he's asking, since we didn't spend the 200,000, he now only wants to spend 100,000, so.
Okay.
So it's still sitting in the reserve. We never took any money out of the reserve because we never went ahead with the project.
Okay.
So,
Any other questions on the highway signage? Councilor Curtis?
Is this gonna be like a solar light setup for, you said it's backlit and everything like that?
Again, there's solar lit options, there's direct power options. That will all be, that's a part of the RFP to come up with different options of how this can be powered. But solar's probably a little bit more expensive to start off, but long-term costs are less, so.
So what we, last council had talked about, have you seen Innovate's sign on the highway? And how that's solar lit, and that's the concept we were looking at. Councilor Rudick?
Thanks for bringing that forward. It's interesting that it's in your department now too. Just a quick question or comment. The project justification, I appreciate very much, Paul, that you've given everybody these sheets to explain each of the expenditures and how they fit into our sustainability pillars. I wonder if it's relevant, just for posterity's sake, to have the justification go back to when the project began. And please correct me, Councilors Berry and Lemko, this original project, although it did originate from Economic Development Tourism Advisory Board when they were together, but it was a working group that was comprised of the Chamber, Tourism, as well as some local businesses. So it dated back perhaps to 17 or 2018 even. It's not material, but maybe for posterity's sake, just to keep that on the records altogether.
Someone to give an explanation of how this started, or?
Well, I was just going to say she summarized it quite well, because it was a working group. And we were looking at the aspect of replacing those signs out there and making something that might be more attractive and catch the eye of travelers, as you were suggesting. I would agree that actually rather than saying that it's a new project, I mean, I think what we're trying to do is complete and conclude on a concept that started back in, I believe you're right, I think it was 2018. I think it was 2018, but I think that should be appropriate.
Yeah, I'm just trying to be, it doesn't need to be long, but I think just for the justification, potentially if these projects don't come to fruition, I would hope this one does. But if they didn't, that this needs to, for posterity's sake, be accurate as possible. And it just briefly.
Okay, I can revamp those, that description and justification. And also in the sustainability, the pillar, economic should be crossed off there too. So this is an economic driver as well as environmental and cultural.
General operating reserve, because there was $200,000 put in last year, so $100,000 want to take out, and we will have design. We will see a design moving forward of the sign.
Yes, that's correct. Once, we'll send out the RFP.
Yeah.
And we'll get, proposals back from a number of companies, not just one company.
Okay. So everybody's good with that? It's not financed in this budget. Actual fact, it's already in the reserve. Okay. Keep going, Phil.
All right, the next item is a new facilities, fleet vehicle, half-ton truck. The operating, $46,000 operating cost impact, general maintenance for the fleet department. The description, a new truck for the facilities department as the current vehicles are aging. The two oldest trucks that facilities department operates right now are 1992 and a 1996 that are at the end of their life cycle. So the 97 half-ton truck would be replaced with this new half-ton. And this would be funded from the fleet reserve. And this is the only half-ton truck, I believe, in the budget this year. Any questions? Yeah. Yes.
So how many kilometers are you putting on these trucks? How many kilometers, let's say, is on this 97?
Would you have an idea, Dale, or they get moved down the fleets from different departments. I honestly have no idea how many kilometers are on there. I could find that, but they're usually recommended by the fleet manager for replacement based on the maintenance and the amount of kilometers that they have, so.
Okay, so how much maintenance goes into these trucks every year? Is there a certain level where you want to stop putting money into them? Is that what you're finding?
Yes, it gets to a point where if there's a mechanical breakdown, it's just not even worth repairing any further, so. We've been slowly, aging out some of these old trucks, over the years. If that makes sense.
Yeah, I know a thing or two about automotive, so, so I'm just wondering about it, just how many kilometers are going out? When do you determine the newer trucks get moved down? And what technologies do we have to fix them for the newer trucks within our mechanics departments? Are they able to keep up with the technologies? Like,
Sure, thank you.
because they'll know those ones, yeah.
Right now and for the last few years, our fleet program typically is the utilities department that's on the road hitting ACE in those places, purchases of trucks, because with the contract services that we have, they are billed out accordingly. When those trucks hit approximately, not lots, about 140,000, 160,000 K after a few years, they're brought into the regular fleet of the public works or other departments if they need. And then the new replacements are on top. That happens about 75% of the time. We still do buy an odd new pickup for IP&D outside of utilities. So about 150,000 K on an average, they'll come into general fleet. So it'll go to managers, whoever's driving them. When they get down to a certain level again, because we have units that are quite old, that are summer student driven, typically pothole patchers, crack filling, pylon sign, and they get to the point they are so done, we kick those out. So this truck this 97 that Phil's got that's just about done will probably end up at Public Works and get used just in the summer months as a standby public or summer student type truck. And when something goes on it that's worth more than the truck, then yes, they're headed out to the landfill. If it's an engine or a transmission, something that's worth a lot of money, the fire department will simply use it for training and practice, and then it goes into our metal system and then gets recycled and we get some revenue out of it. As far as the technology for repairing vehicles, we've got some We've got good hoists, we got good tools, we got a couple of young mechanics. They're doing super well and have a really good understanding of the new technology. And the scanning system we have is decent. There is times when we have to go to dealer to scan because we can't have every scanner and everything. It's not viable with the size of fleet. But as far as fixing our equipment, we've got some decent equipment to keep up with the technology, and we've got some good young mechanics that are also able to understand and keep up with the new technology. We farm out as little as possible, but we do when we need to.
So the new vehicles that come out, so they're hitting about 140,000 K, so is that within 1, 2 years, 3 years? Like the utilities ones especially going out of town, so.
Probably about every 2 to 3 years, we're buying a pickup, so they would probably drive them for about 4 years, 3 to 4 years, and then they would drop down.
Usually within the powertrain warranty, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so Council Bullock, this is the only half-ton in the ask here, and when we're getting down to it, when, how much money is in the reserves, stuff, then we'll make some decisions. I mean, they told us about the 2 oldest in the fleet, they didn't tell us what else they had, and this is for facilities, and there's other trucks that are to every department, right? So as we get down and we look at what other, costs that we're gonna be looking at, that reserve, we'll make some decisions based on that. I mean, they do the best they can with their vehicles and stuff, and you've seen some of the stuff that runs around the summer. You know, every vehicle gets the lifetime, gets a good lifetime in the town, so. But these decisions at the end, when we're looking at how much we're actually asking us to approve under certain reserves, that's when we'll have a conversation, because if a truck is going to a manager to drive around, really, sometimes do we really need it and stuff, so we'll make those decisions at the end. But I know you were looking for some information about how they determine the lifespan of a truck. When it can go no more is when it goes to the landfill. Okay?
Okay,
Good. That's good. We'll have those conversations though, like when we get to what the needs are and what the wants are. Just so you know. Councilor Berry, did you have something you wanted to bring up? Okay. Keep going then, Phil.
Thank you. So the next item is a air conditioning unit for the server room. This is under the Facilities Department, estimated $14,000. Economic Environment pillars. This is proposed a new air conditioning unit for the server room to ensure quality environment. So in the administration building here, it houses our server downstairs. It creates a substantial amount of heat, and the town's investment in our server system, all our telecommunications, the internet, everything runs through that server. So Shinatech, through corporate services, have suggested that an air conditioning unit and ventilation system be put in there to ensure that the system doesn't overheat and crash the server, which would be detrimental and costly to the town's operations. So basically it's a smaller server system that will just keep the temperature in the server room at a consistent level for computer systems.
Just if I could add, the server room currently has a portable air conditioning unit that fails on a weekly basis. And so Shinatech has said, if we don't fix this problem, then our servers are gonna crash, they're gonna overheat and they're gonna crash, and then we won't be able to do anything here. So we need to get this part, this has to get done, so.
Next item is a dehumidifier for facilities of $50,000. Operating cost impacts generate a savings annually of $5,000 on natural gas and electricity. This is a carry forward from 2020. It was in the 2020 budget, but because the arena was shut down and not used, we didn't get the project done. So we want to put it in for it was in 2021, put it in for 2022. So what the dehumidifier does in the arena is it takes the humidity out of the air and doesn't, if we didn't have this, you would see major fog because of the heating from the bleachers and the cooling from the ice. So this is to pull the humidity out of the air, and it basically saves on the amount of gas that the heaters and electricity that the heaters have to keep the temperature consistent in the building. So this is in the carry forward reserve.
If this was to go forward, would it be something that would be done during the course of the year or after the main arena usage is done for the year?
Yeah, it would start right after the hockey season, when the ice is taken out.
So the only thing that I want to bring forward, I think we had a slight chance to talk about it, and I wanted to talk to you before, but unfortunately, elections and stuff were at a hard time. I had said before that I know how important this is because I know what it does. However, I just did recently see, so I recognize it's something that should be in budgetary, but if it does go ahead and is passed through, I think we should have a little bit of a discussion. I just saw another provincial CFEP grant go through on the same type of thing. So typically I know CFEPs aren't able to be applied for by the municipality, but if you can show that a user group within that specifically benefits from this, it's like an extension of the program. And I saw another hockey association that actually applied for a grant for dehumidifiers, claiming it would extend the timeline of their season. And in that case there, what happened is if it's $50,000 for that, the town essentially committed to giving $25,000 to the association if they applied for the grant, and half of it came from the province. So I saw one go through, so I think that if this does go, we should maybe discuss it, because the next deadline for an association to apply would be January 15th. So I think if you're not doing it till the end of season anyways, it would be worth trying. The worst that could happen is you wouldn't get the grant. So just something to throw there.
I did see that too, and also this project is available for grant funding under the MCCAC, which is a municipal climate action grant. So we have to do the work, and then we put an application in, and we can get as much as 50% funding back for this project. So, but we have to do the project in advance, and it's basically to save energy costs.
So I think that would probably be good. I mean, we could attack it from both sides, because you would know whether you had the provincial grant first, and then if it didn't, you could go the other way and try to get the other one. But if we could get half the money out of it, that would be good.
Yep.
Okay, I have a question for Paul. Paul, in our binder, do we have the amounts that are in every reserve?
Yes, there is a schedule. It's for every year. There's one, it's right after this page.
Okay, so it's at the front then?
Yeah, it's, you go
Okay.
through, actually, it's right, you have this page, then you have a page called capital grants, and then the third one is called reserves, and it shows the capital reserves.
And it shows the thresholds too, when they need to be topped up and stuff in
It
there?
does not. It just
Okay.
shows the amounts that are in there. And actually, if it's coming out of the operating reserve, other than the carry forward reserve, like the 100,000 for the signs, the operating reserve does not show it. This is basically the capital reserve and the carry forward reserves are on here.
Okay, so just so everybody understands that, when it says that it's financed out of the fleet or if it's equipment, that the reserves and there's thresholds that aren't written in there, that when they get to a certain point, they need to be, start a payment back plan. We need to top them up again. So just, so you're making decisions in your mind or moving forward, you get to know what's in each reserve. Okay.
I can provide that information to all council after this meeting, and then they'll have all that information.
Thank you very much. Okay, sorry to interrupt, but keep going there now, Phil.
Okay, next item is a furnace replacement for recreation facilities at the Aquatic Center. Budget estimate is $28,000. The operating cost impacts, reduced energy consumption. The estimated useful life of these new furnaces will be $15,000. The project description to replace the 4 furnaces in the Aquatic facility that supply the office common area, the studio, and the change room areas. So this does not include the actual physical pool area, so it's all the common area, studio, and the fitness area.
This is a rooftop unit we're talking?
Yes.
Right.
So the furnaces are aging and in need of replacement, as outlined in the facility master plan. Again, there's a grant funding may be available through the MCCAC. And this, we had an audit, energy audit done on the facility and assessment done back in 2017, I believe it was. So these will definitely fit within those guidelines to save energy consumption at the aquatic facility. And this would be funded directly from operations.
Okay, any questions regarding that? Okay,
If I can just
Go ahead.
add one more comment, the AUMA energy audit is being done courtesy of AUMA, there's no charge to the town.
Right, next item is a skid steer, a track model. This is for the Parks Department, an estimated cost of $86,000. This is a new initiative, and the project is to purchase a new skid steer for the Parks Department. New skid steer is needed for the Parks Department to help continue the growth of the parks and trail system, along with the continued maintenance of all the extra kilometers of trails. They currently have insufficient equipment to perform this effectively. This year in 2021, we rented the skid steer to develop the Southwest Walking Trail. And it's being very, very widely used, and the concept is to, if council approves the continued walking trail development, that this could be continued to be done in-house. But the wheeled units just don't have the power and the strength to be able to dig through the dirt like that track model did. This will also assist in snow removal. I assume or presume that we're going to continue doing the walking trail out at the golf course this year. That was highly used. So that, again, the track model, very good for not damaging the grass like the wheeled units when they start spinning. So it has a lot more strength. And this would be funded from the equipment reserves. And there's a picture of them on the next page. So it was widely used this summer in terms of being able to prepare land and get those trails built.
Director Rowe, how many months did we rent? It just says the busy periods, but how much did we spend on rentals?
5 months.
5 months?
Yeah. We started using the wheeled skid steer, and it couldn't dig into any of that dirt. It just doesn't have the power that it needed.
so that being said, if we don't okay any more of the walking trails for a year or two, our other equipment that we have right now is what we've been working with. So again, this goes hand in hand with if we're gonna keep going with any more money in walking trails, so. Okay, so the next is the sweeper, and I guess that just,
Yes, this is a sweeper attachment for the Parks Department for $8,000. This is the sweeper that goes on the front of the John Deere tractors. So they're lawnmowers, but they have the ability to put the sweeper attachment on it. And this is what we use in the winter for clearing, brushing off some of the trails. And the current one is at the end of its life cycle. It's taking a lot of repairs and needs to be replaced. And this would be funded out of operations as well. Okay. All right, next one, walking trails. Under parks, $20,000. This project is to continue developing and creating walking trails in and around Vegreville. Walking trails are an important component of community development as per the 2021 Parks Master Plan. Research conducted while developing the Parks Master Plan showed that outdoor spaces and walking trails are especially important to the residents of Vegreville. By developing new and enhancing existing walking trail systems in the community, The town is showing a commitment to developing the community and enhancing the physical and social well-being of its people. So this $20,000 would be for materials. Again, this would be done, the labor would be done in-house, and this would be to complete phase 2 of the Southwest Nature Walking Trail. So we did, this summer, we did phase 1, and phase 2 now would extend from there along the east side of the wetlands south of St. Mary's, and phase 3 would be then tying in basically from the soccer fields to that, and that would complete the whole Southwest Trail. And if you look at the next page, you'll see, so the blue dotted line is phase 2. The solid yellow line, that's what we did this year with that rental machine, and we used materials that were basically we had stockpiled at the town, so we moved some clay around and utilized the asphalt millings to make that trail. IP&D in the planning department, when they did 45th road construction, we took a lot of that base material and saved on trucking costs and had it piled up in the southwest. So we've got some base materials, so all we'll need is gravel and the geotech fabric to put underneath. That's what the $20,000 would be for, is the extra materials to build the trail. Any questions on?
Everybody understands where it's at, and so that's in-house, we would build it, materials to put down, and this would be depending if you had the tracked skid steer.
And this would be funded from the Parks Reserve, this $20,000. I believe there's 149,000 in there, Paul? 150,000.
Okay,
All right, next item is for fire services, extrication equipment replacement, budget cost of $30,000. The extrication equipment that the fire department currently has is a hydraulic built-in system. That was purchased in 2006. It is getting close to the end of its life cycle. The blades and repairs that we're doing annually are about anywhere between $4,000 and $6,000 to replace blades, change fittings. So we'd like to look at purchasing 2 more battery-operated tools. We did purchase a small combi tool for $19,000 in 2019, and that went on the little rapid unit. So these 2 pieces of equipment would go on the rescue unit, and basically it's to extend the life of the hydraulic system. Most of the times the cutting that they need could easily be accomplished by these tools. By the battery operated tools are also lighter and they're safer for the fire department, the members, and it will extend that lifespan of the hydraulic system. If the hydraulic system fails, we're looking at about a $54,000 replacement for that. And again, we have an X amount of hose, and if we have to get farther into somewhere, then we have to take an extension cord, take the pump, and move everything out. These are battery operated tools. They'll work hand in hand with the other batteries that we use. So it's just a matter of carrying it out, and it's unlimited to where we can take it, and they're half the weight. And this would be funded out of the equipment reserve.
and you're looking to buy 2 of them.
Yes, so so there's 3 major tools that the fire department uses. One's a cutter, one's a spreader, and one is a ram. So the spreader is what everybody would know as the jaws of life, and a cutter is it's a massive cutting blade, and the ram is an extension that the tool uses. So we would be purchasing the spreaders and the cutters, because that's the most widely used tools that they use.
Is that 30 each or
No,
30
15
total?
each,
Okay.
yeah.
How many more years is expected on the current hydraulic stuff, even if we go with this, extends the life, how much longer? Do you figure?
They're anywhere from 10 to 15 years. Again, it depends on
Usage.
the usage, and it's, the life is actually not as much as it's the pump and the blades. Once that pump fails, that's a huge expense, and like the blades and the cutting teeth, because they're superhuman material, they're so expensive. Like, to replace the blades on the cutters alone is $6,000 just to replace the blade. So, because you're cutting through any kind of steel.
So are you, telling us the reserve you wanna use is from the fire hall reserve, or you wanna take it out of our general equipment reserve?
General equipment reserve.
So it doesn't fall under the reserve that we've set up for the fire department?
No, the fire reserve,
Go ahead, Cliff.
The reserve that was set up for, you're referring to the ones with ambulance revenue?
Well, and we put money into another
Right.
reserve
That-
over there for
That was for
equipment.
the facility, the Emergency Services Building Facility Reserve.
And did not we put some money into a reserve for equipment for, air tanks and general equipment for the fire department?
We did put $50,000 in a couple of years ago. That's where it's at right now.
Okay. Well, there's options on what reserve we could tap for this.
Your worship, under our, and I know I'll be involved in this soon, but under our current fire agreement, is it just an agreement on service, or is there capital purchase component within it?
Well, without having the agreement in place right now,
Yeah,
and
technically.
it's hard for me to say anything publicly, but as soon as, we call the next meeting, you'll be,
Maybe
privy
my
to that.
question was like, previously, did we have specifically a portion that was allocated towards capital within that? That was more my
no,
question.
there was not.
Okay, yeah, that's what I
And
want to know.
are we going in that direction this time? Yes.
Yeah, well, I didn't know if we had it previous or not, because I hadn't. Okay, good.
yes.
Sorry, go ahead, Councillor Bullock.
Hey, I just wondered, so you say they're half the weight, right? So the old Jaws of Life and the old cutters, do we have any volunteer firefighters that actually have trouble handling those ones at all?
Yeah, they're heavy. I mean, that's
Okay,
the
fair
word I
enough.
was looking for, so, yes, you know, the original ones, I mean, and they've, even the hydraulic tools have come down in weight, but, the Jaws of Life are 70-some pounds. So, and according to NFPA physical fitness standards, you have to be able to hold it up here for 45 seconds, down here for 45 seconds, and then waist high for 45 seconds. So it does become a challenge. And yes, with the changing demographics, it certainly is.
Yeah. Well, good point. That's something important right there.
Again, these are decisions that we'll make, right? So, I mean, we gotta remember, this is what they would like to have. It's just how much we can fund, because at the end, Director Casey's gonna say, well, this is what you guys want. This is what needs to happen. Keep going, Phil.
All right, my last item, again, this is for fire services and emergency management. This is emergency services communications radio upgrade, and it is to replace the current two-way radio communication system. The current system we have its last major upgrade was in 2011. So it is a VHF two-way radio system. We're starting to have failures in the system due to the repeaters that need to be replaced. We went through several different options, so we could upgrade this current system at a cost of $100,000. And the second option was to move towards an AFRAC system, so that's the Alberta First Responders Communication System. That system is the new system that was generated by the government of Alberta that all first responders, so that's policing, fire departments, EMS, anything to do with first responders, even the Fish and Wildlife are going to the AFRAC system where the province, they're the ones that maintain the towers, they maintain all the repeaters. We just buy the radios and we buy a one-time license through the province, and we pay for the radios. The radios are much more expensive than the normal two-way radio system that we use, but we would save on, by going this way, it was $206,000. If that was to outright buy the radios that we need for the entire system, that's all the trucks, the base radio, the personal two-way radios, and a system here for emergency management. We looked at lease options, and the lease option is $54,000 a year, so $4,400 a month, and that would guarantee us that we would always have a new communication system. We wouldn't have to pay for the annual maintenance that we do on radios, which is anywhere from $8,000 a year. We have a company come in, they go through every radio, they refurbish them, they replace parts as needed. We have a tower rental to ATCO, and we have licensing fees to Industry Canada that we pay for all our different radio systems that we use. So that money would be saved by going with the AFRAC system. So,
Paul, is there any difference in reserves from general operating just to the operating? They're both the same, we just shortened it up?
The general operating reserve is the operating.
Okay.
so if we went with this lease of $56,000 a year, that would be funded out of the fire's operations under services purchased.
So that wouldn't be coming out of reserve, that would be a taxable item that we were raising taxes for to pay for for the lease payment. It'd be part of the net amount that we need to collect for taxes.
Okay, so when we see operations, that is a part of this tax?
Operations is part of the tax.
Okay.
This year's operating budget, operating reserve is coming out of the reserve that we've set aside already.
But it's in here because it is a capital item.
Yep.
Any questions?
So it's like we have three choices, you're saying. Is that how I'm hearing it? Just, I wanna make sure you could lease it, you could buy it for 206, or you could buy it for 100.
So we could upgrade the current system we have for $100,000. Or we can move to the AFRAC system, and the AFRAC system, we can either buy it outright for 206 or lease it over 5 years at 60 months at $54,000 a year. And going with the $100,000 upgrade to our system, slowly but surely, most municipal fire departments are going to the AFRAC system as their current systems basically are failing or getting to that point because so right now, if our neighbors are on AFRACs, we can't communicate with them. This way we would. So it is the trend that most services are eventually starting to go to the AFRAC system.
Do you think Innisfree is on the AFRACs?
No, not right now,
Do you think Lamont is?
Lamont is going to AFRACs, yes, next year.
So there is one other option, Councillor Curtis, that we stay where we're at right now.
Yes.
And we spend the $8,000 a year and have them serviced.
Is there any other close proximity other than Lamont that have it currently?
They don't have it.
Or that are going to have it or are going to get it within the next year?
All the surrounding areas of the city are. Lloydminster's using it, up north they're using it. And it comes down, a lot of it comes down to the coverage, so.
I just mean the ones that we communicate with on a regular basis.
As of today, no. You know, we would be the first in our area, but
Then they couldn't communicate with us. It'd be, cause a problem. Okay, Councilor Rudick?
I just wanted to ask that AFRAC's system originally had some problems with interfacing with other agencies. So I know that the province had suggested a number of years ago that AFRAC's was the way to go, but it still wasn't sharing information with community peace officers or RCMP, for example. Is that the case now? Because my understanding was in the past, you still had to use, first responders were relying on their cell phones and cobbling together a way to be able to speak with one another, but AFRAC still wasn't answering that. Has that snafu been resolved?
so we would be able to communicate with peace officers, anyone that's provincially regulated. The RCMP, they're still in negotiations of getting encryption codes and allowing services to speak with the RCMP. So that is in the works. I don't know where it is with the federal government right now, so.
Thank you.
Does seems a little strange that emergency services, police and fire and stuff are not able to communicate on that new system that the RCMP brought in, but they've done it because they don't want anybody else in on their system.
So what they're looking at is, with the AFRAC system, there's unlimited channels because it's all talk groups. So what RCMP is currently, from what I understand through the last conversations, is they're looking at having a general talk group that emergency services can communicate together if they were on a situation together. No one will ever have access to the RCMP's actual line that they use because of just the confidentiality. So, but they are looking at a talk group that is specific for regions or demographic areas that all emergency services could talk to each other.
Okay, any other questions regarding that radio? Okay, keep going.
That's all I have, sir.
That's right. So when it comes to Phil's department and the request for capital, does anybody have any more clarification they need on any of the purchases he's looking at? I mean, nobody has a glass ball. We can't figure the feature stuff, but purchasing today is really expensive to anything we're gonna buy today, so just keep that in mind too, so. Okay, thank you, Phil. Who's up next? Uh-oh. Yeah, here we go.
What was that for?
Because your department is never cheap.
So we're gonna go to IP and D.
IP&D, and just to answer Councillor Bullock's question earlier, Unit 66 is actually, it's a 25-year-old unit, 185,000 K. The trucks that stay, and those are all town miles, every one of them is in town miles. And our trucks averaging, not the utilities on the highway, but the in-town trucks average really 8,000 to 10,000 K a year, so. Okay, hey. This is a small shoring cage we're looking for. We have a shoring cage now. It's for bigger jobs. It's longer, it's wider. This one is smaller. If we go in your front yard and have to dig up your CC with a hydrovac, we can drop this in and make it a 3x4 entry into the repair as opposed to a 4x8 or 10. So a lot less sidewalk sometimes, which is money, and less flower beds and less intrusion on some people's front yards, which is always important. If you have to go do things, which the CC is our responsibility, that we do it as quickly and without as much damage as we can. That's it for Public Works for 2022. We just won 11,000. Now let's move to Municipal Services. So you should be on the page that has the picture of the blue garbage truck. All right. It's time for a new garbage truck. The picture you're seeing there is a 2010 Peterbilt. If our other councilors, I know they'll remember that we bought that used off of the town of Vermilion. When they left their automated garbage system, it went back to a contracted service. So we purchased all their bins at a good price. And they had a newer garbage truck that was still under warranty. We purchased that, and we made a deal on this one for, it was about $80,000 used. And we've run this truck for, you know, probably about 2,000 hours now we've made since we purchased it, but there's just not much left of it, of the truck. It's time to replace it. It's gonna have a lot of trouble passing future CVIPs, which it has to pass to stay on the road, so it's time to let it go. We have 3 trucks, this is the 3rd one, so we'll drop this one out, bring the next Pete down as the 3rd truck, and then purchase new. And we use 2 to 2 1/4 trucks to collect the solid waste from the community, and the 3rd trucks are used after any long weekend. We hit the town hard on a Tuesday to play catch-up in one day, so the businesses that have garbages that are full, get them all caught up that day, so they're not, you know, overloaded and overfull. And after any Christmas breaks, or when a truck goes down for repair, it has to go in for a CFIP or whatever has to happen, we've got that old bonus truck, but this one needs to go. So that you'll see in your 5-year capital plan. This would be-
$395 is the cost, Dale?
Yes. Yep,
Will it be white?
it will be white.
Okay.
In all honesty, the chassis, we're still doing okay to get the chassis. We're just having a little trouble getting the Packmore body that sits on the back. It's out of Texas. And they are behind at this point, probably 8 to 10 months. So ordering it as soon as budget's approved, we might see it next fall. And that's just what life is right now. Any questions? Flipping the page. Everybody, well, council remembers that just about $1 million TANA purchase compactor at the landfill. Well, it's doing a great job, and now we need to put it inside someplace during the winter months or all months of the year. We're proposing to put up this tent structure. We've received pricing out of town. We've received pricing locally. The local price was better, plus it also included an insulated steel door, not that the building's heated, as opposed to a canvas flap door that the other ones had. So this is a better purchase for us. This will house the compactor as well as other equipment if the crawler's up there, or if we have some vehicles up there. There'd be no power to this building, there'd be no heat to this building. The TANA compactor has a Wabasso heater in it, runs off a little bit of diesel if you're familiar with that, and it fires up and it keeps the engine at operating temperature throughout the course of the night, even if it's -40. This just helps keep it out of the wind, out of the sun. You know, anything parked outside forever deteriorates awfully quick, and it'll give us a place to put some extra equipment. And it is portable, though it's not easy to move, it is movable. So if as the working face changes at the landfill, remember we saw the different areas and zones we'll be moving to, we'll be able to, if necessary, move this, or if not, at least it's close. What this stops is us trying to run this piece of equipment daily from the working face down to the gravel yard where the cold storage is, would be the only place the TANA would fit. And that's just a lot of back and forth. And if you've ever driven something that has a sheep's foot compactor style barrel on it in the frozen ground, it will shake you apart way down. So we want to keep it up on top. And that is a $68,500 purchase price. That includes all the assembly, absolutely everything. They will just come out and put it together for us and set it up.
Just a question, Director Lefebvre, what other equipment would you store in there if it's so far away from the opposite cold storages? And
Well, we would, it would be a summer month storage. We have room down below in a couple different buildings. Well, one's heated for the crawler loader down at the bottom. The other one would go into cold storage. We put the solid rubber tires on a rubber tired loader, so we could load gravel and stuff down there without getting flat repairs done weekly. And that one will sit in cold storage, but we'll just plug it in because its use in the wintertime is minimal, very minimal. So this one would live up on top. So we're just making sure, as we've done always, if you're gonna build this building, even if it's a tent structure for the compactor, don't build it so you got 4 feet around the unit and think you're good, because you're not thinking about who knows what comes next. Maybe in 10 years, the next one's even bigger, but we've got a place to put it. If I have, 100 composting rollout containers that are gonna go out next spring and not this winter, I got someplace to go put them. It doesn't cost a lot of money to make it a little bigger, right?
as long as you're actually putting other equipment in.
Yep. All right, moving right along. still in landfill.
Hold it,
Oh, sorry.
I didn't recognize Counselor Rudick had a question.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry, Dale, I just wanted to clarify. Did you say there was room in the existing buildings for this, but you didn't want it to be going up and down the road? Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay,
In fact, even Counselor Rudick, I would not drive it all the way down every day. It's not going to happen. That machine cannot handle that every day. To drive that distance, to park it inside a cold building when it has its own heater system, it's no benefit. It would not drive down. Like, what I'm saying is that's not an option for us. I have a building down at the bottom in the gravel yard that could hold it, but it's not practical due to location and the distance.
anybody else on that tent structure? Oh, okay, Dale, go ahead.
You want it lowered down? I thought Jameson would be on top of that. Next page is the landfill boundary fence. This is on the east side of our working face of the landfill. We're doing much better with litter control since the new compactors come. In fact, we're doing far, far better with it because it's pounding it down and keeping it down. We still have litter that does get away on us when the trucks are unloading and the wind's blowing before the compactor gets to it. And this is a relatively cheap way to do it. We'll put up this fence. This is phase one of 2 phases. We want to do the east side and we want to do the north side. We do get complaints from the people that live just outside the boundaries of the landfill that live in the county because of some plastic bags typically are what take off and go. We do go pick them in the spring. We cannot pick them in the middle of summer because of the crops. They don't want us driving around or walking, because the crops are growing, and then we pick them in the fall. We do have Alberta Environment come out probably once a year due to complaints of the litter. The Alberta Environment Inspector that came out just this last summer complimented us on how we're controlling litter compared to other landfills. So we're doing as good as we can, and we think if we take this $17,000 fence and break it into 2 phases, we'll do the east side first, the worst side, and then next year we'll do the next side. And remember, as the landfill expands and moves, we can roll this up, pull the pipes out, and move it over and reuse it again. So it'll be a one-time purchase. It'll last, 25 years.
Any questions on the fence?
Okay, the next page is municipal services, 5-year plan. The solid waste garbage truck, $395, the tent structure, $68.5, and the boundary fence, $8,500. I didn't make comment on the last 5-year plan as to what was coming with the news that we've received, formal news that we've received about the amount of MSI that we are going to receive. I also have to take my next few years' plan and make some adjustments according to the income. So what's on there, some of it will stay, some might be forced to be pushed back, and so we'll just leave it there for this year, but understand that things will likely move around a little bit for next budgets.
So you haven't indicated how you're gonna finance these purchases?
So I was just gonna get to that,
Oh, sorry.
Your Worship. With the exception of the solid waste truck, all the other pieces will be funded out of operations under current year taxes. And the garbage truck will be funded out of the equipment reserve. And you remember the equipment reserve was set aside to buy equipment and vehicles that were in excess of 1 ton. So. At the beginning of, or at the end of this year, there will be $927,662 in that reserve that we can use for this purchase and the purchase from Community Services for their traco and their extrication equipment, which would leave us with $446,000 at the end of the year, which then we would have to refund because I think there's a minimum requirement of
$500,000, I think.
$500,000, I think, yeah. So,
So we'd have to budget that top up to that reserve in here too, if we agree on these purchases is coming through the equipment reserve. Wow. This is amazing, eh? From where we were to spending and what we have this time around. Oh my God. So Dale, you'll have the updated, 5-year plan for us the next time we sit down
To do budget.
To do
like
budget.
Next year's budget,
yeah.
like when we meet a year from now.
Oh, so you got a few days then. Okay, anybody else have any questions? Okay.
This is pump 105 replacement pump. It's at the, what was called the LRC station, is by the bulk water station. That's our main water distribution system. In that distribution building, there are 2 electric pumps, and there is a diesel-powered pump that provide water pressure to and volume and flow to the town. There's 2 individual separate pumps that supply water flows to Innotech, the building itself. There is a system to cross over. If we have imminent failure and our pumps absolutely quit, we can do some valve work and open up and feed the town with AITF's pumps, and vice versa. If AITF's pumps go down, we can feed AITF a volume of water. So that was built into the system when it was built. But point remaining is this pump is over 20 years old, just over, and we change them out every 20 years. And this is pump 105. That is one of the 2 pumps that feed the Alberta Innotech building. So once this one is done, we'll be in good shape. One thing we did notice, and that's why there's the picture to your right top, is showing the 2, those are called vertical turbines that are connected to the bottom of this blue pump and go into the reservoir. You can see that it's about 1.5 meters above floor height. So whenever it was installed 25 years ago, that was a mistake that just got put in by a contractor at some point, because when we had the divers come in to clean they do an inspection inside the reservoir, and then they also have a vacuum system to pull any silt that's built up out. They had brought it to our attention that one pump is 6 feet off the floor, which tells you when that pump sucking air, we're still not at the bottom in the major event of a fire or water restriction, something happening, we would have that water sitting there. Now, the other pump is able to get to the bottom. So we weren't in bad trouble, but we want to change this out. Since we're changing it anyway, because the life of the pump is at its age, we're going to correct that too, so they're both down at the bottom, is what I'm trying to say quickly.
So both these smaller pumps are for Innotech.
They are for Innotech, primarily for Innotech, yeah.
So I think over the last 20 years, the volume of sales, we've probably paid for a couple of pumps in profit we've made.
We have done that for sure.
Okay.
They use more water than you and I do, that's for sure.
Anybody got any questions on, how many horses is this pump?
That one will be just, I believe it's still just under 25 horse.
And this estimate is gauged with the correct length of the turbine.
You betcha, yep. And that'll be funded by operations. (2022) capital project. Capital project estimation done by MP Engineering is 1.343 million. That's 52nd Street. That is from 45th Avenue south to 43rd Avenue, and then turn and head east on 43rd Avenue from 50th to 52nd Street. So I have a map showing where that is. That goes past Mayor Coleman's, it goes past Trevor Semeniuk's, it goes past Billick's, and heads up in that neck of the woods. The old Halus subdivision that he built a few years ago. That's where we're going by.
So is, on mine, it's in the red?
That is correct. It is in the red. So what that is from 45th Avenue north, a short block, probably half a block, the sewer line is in need of replacement. We do have another area in town that'll be in the operational budget where we're able to line some of our sewer lines. We typically like to line the sewer lines that don't have services dropping into them, like the straight runs that we've done. This year, we're gonna try a line that needs to be lined because of cracking, but the grade's still good. And then they're gonna cut out from the inside and seal each service that comes into the main. It's a short block and it's a great opportunity to try and see how that's going to work exactly. However, this is not worthy of lining. This needs to be R&R. We have to open it up, daylight it, pull it out, rebase, bump, put in the new sewer line, compact, and bring it up and asphalt it. At the same time, we'll be doing valves that require to be done in the older areas, and also minimal concrete work like we typically do, just piecemeal what needs and what doesn't need to be done, regardless of the shade or color, just stays there.
So everybody understands the septic, the sewer line is just a short block going south off of 45th. The rest is
Has been-
overlay and.
Yeah, we've televised them all, they're in decent shape, they're fine, so. So this also is brought to light because of the pavement quality index that we just received, because it was updated, as you remember, last fall. We just got it this spring and went through it. It's changed what you saw, the previous council has seen. The PQI had showed areas more on the south side we're gonna focus on, because they were hitting a point where it was time to overlay. If you let the roads deteriorate to a point beyond where they're capable of being overlaid, then they'd be, it's called a full depth reclamation. It all comes out, it all goes back in. So one is $60 a square meter, and the other one's, you know, getting close to 600, depending how much work you have to do with sidewalk and underground. So it's far better bang for your buck to do a mill and overlay. These two areas, you'll see the one just above it is the 45A and 45B area. That's the other prime candidate. We've got, according to the PQI and driving it, we've probably got seriously 2, maybe, I don't know if we have 3 years before it's now past its ability to be overlaid, and we have to start repairing some base work. There's getting a lot of this going on into it, right? So with the information received from MP, doing it's the PQI, sorry for new council, is a pavement quality index. It's driven with a van that has a lot of high-tech equipment in it. It's sonar, it does basing, it does deflections, it stops. It is a system that pads the ground and it reads the signal coming back up. It's quite impressive, and it'll tell us without exposing anything that this road needs base repair. This road, you know, is performing well. The quality, it measures the cracks. It knows that this is a prime candidate for an overlay. It doesn't need an overlay. It's good for, and it gives an approximate date. This is good for 5 years, 6 years, 8 years. And then we obviously take that information and go physically drive it and have a look. I can't see what's happening underneath the asphalt that well, but on the top we sure can. So based on those two systems, we're able to put together a plan that's going to put your money to the best use and save these roads that can be saved before they get to the point where we're doing a FDR, full depth reclamation.
Okay, anybody have any questions on what Dale's proposing in this?
Okay, well, since there's no questions, on the next year's project will be 45A and 45B, as I mentioned, just above it on the same map. I apologize for the blue highlighting on blue, but you can see the one section is a slightly darker blue. It was supposed to be crosshatched, but it doesn't look crosshatched when we went to print it. That area is a full depth reclamation. That means digging it down the 1.5 meters and rebasing and bringing it back up. The rest of the area is an overlay, and what I want to do now that I've got the price on it, before it's a $1.7 million job, because of the money situation that we're running into, I will take that portion that's crosshatched or slightly darker, and I would remove that from the project and move it to a next year's project and manage this instead of leaving it all. If 1.7 isn't feasible, that we can't get that kind of money next year, we'll have the ability to pull that section out, do it a little bit smaller, and the following year do that area, so that we're actually gonna hit these roads before they pass their best before date, right? We also know that when we moved down the line that there was some talk about the service road at PV Mart with our previous council, so that's been priced and set in here. We should probably wait a bit for that until they're finished their construction and equipment and whatever's running around over there. I was asked by council to just get an estimate on the price of that service road, and we'll put that for future consideration. So for our new councilor, that's why you'll see some of these in there. There's reasons behind why there's things in certain places.
I'll speak to that. Like when I met with the owner, PV Mart themselves, and the contractor, I had sort of said that yes, that they were going to put that kind of money into town, that we'd be very in favor of redoing that road because of, the other users and that was before we got the information from the province about that we were losing half our MSI this year, and which we came to find out today was more than half. So, that was a commitment that I had made, and as soon as I heard that we were losing the amount of MSI that, they had proposed earlier, that I had contacted, and made sure that, that they knew that that was probably not gonna go forward this year, so. So that's all we can do, take a look at it, unless we can find some money someplace else, so.
Sorry, IPD's capital works project for 2022 is currently budgeted to be funded by fuel gas tax fund and MSI in total. So we have, we will be carrying forward from 21 to 22 about 1.9 million in MSI, and then we will get 621,000. Now 1,650,000 of that is allocated already to Southeast 17. So that leaves us some money, about 888,000 or $890,000, of which we would use 610,000 of the MSI money, which would leave us 278,000 to carry forward to next year. The fuel gas tax fund, we spent our allocation, our original allocation of 326, and then the province or the federal government doubled it. So we actually have 406,000 carried forward to this year. And we're budgeting just the normal allocation, not the double allocation, because that hasn't been permanently enacted, of 326,000, which would give us $732,000 to apply to this project. That would leave us with no fuel gas tax money going forward. We would use all of our fuel gas tax money. Fuel gas tax, which I think it's a different grant now, it's called something differently. But anyway, we'd use it all. We'd have $278,000 left to carry forward out of MSI. Then for Dale's project for 2023 would require that we use all our MSI, all our fuel gas tax fund, and over $500,000 of our infrastructure reserve. And we've already committed $1.2 million of our infrastructure reserve to Southeast 17. However, I think that we probably need to reallocate some of that, so it's actually coming out of the development reserve. But we only have about $495,000 left in that development reserve right now, so.
So what you're saying right now for 2022, the coming year, that the 52 Street overlay and the sewer repair and stuff will be financed through MSI and the gas fuel tax?
The fuel gas tax fund.
So this will not be in, coming out of the general tax?
It will not.
Okay. Anybody else? Go ahead.
And I appreciate, Dale, that you're looking ahead and that you're able to make some adjustments where needed. I guess I'm preaching to the choir saying this, but I do find it a little bit disappointing that, as we said, we're finding out about MSI today and how much less it was, when the reality is the reason for the creation of the MSI when it was originally created under Premier Stelmach was long-term municipal sustainable initiatives. And that was supposed to primarily be put forward to allow municipalities to do long-term funding. So when you find out in October for a budget you're passing within a month or two that your allocations are less, I guess I want it to be noted that it's very disappointing that, to me, I appreciate money coming forward, but that in no way is long-term sustainable initiatives when you find out about them at budget times. So, sorry.
Well, there's no doubt about it. Phil, Cliff?
And further to that, the province put in a requirement for municipalities to prepare a 5-year capital plan, and they have only been able, at best, to give 2 years, and now it's just annual. So and that information came through on, was it? Yeah.
Thursday last week.
Thursday, yeah, so it's been a week, so. Yeah, it's very frustrating, and now with the process of them changing the MSI to the local government fiscal framework funding, there still hasn't been any confirmation as to what the funding formulas are going to be as well.
Yeah, I know that through AUMA, we're talking about it at the last couple of meetings that we were with them and giving our input, and it is frustrating. Council Riddick, you have some, question?
I was just going to echo the comments about the late notice, considering the largest non-payer of our municipal taxes is the province, and the expectation that we would be doing long-range planning without any long-range security in our funding, including the one that is supposed to be annually paid, is very hypocritical. So if we could please add that to the list of things that would be talking about with our MLA when we have a meeting with her. I believe we would meet with her in the next while, I'm hoping, as well as any minister that we would be meeting at AUMA. The other thing I was just going to say is the renamed federal gas tax is the Canada Community Building Fund, and the intention is to continue asking for it to be doubled, because it is one of the few sources that particularly, not just Alberta, but a lot of communities are finding the only source of sustainable municipal funding that they can use for projects is this Canada Community Building Fund. So at this point, we don't know that it's doubled, but I appreciate that you've allocated some, or you already had that parceled out for us to understand how this project would be paid, Paul.
Okay, so everybody understands how we're gonna fund this upcoming year's capital project? So, on a personal note, I believe that we have a very large threat to our municipality when it comes to infrastructure. And it has to do with our main sewer lift station. And Dale, if you can just tell us what's in 2024 and 2025.
In 2024, we're proposing to replace the outlet piping inside the sewer lift station. Again, it is also 9.5 meters deep, or just over 30 feet, 2 stories. We pump the effluent up and we send it out to the lagoons. The pump's manifold are connected to an outlet pipe that goes through the concrete foundation wall and is supported by concrete thrust blocks. And then and that's ductile iron, because it was a 70s build. And from there it goes to an HDPE continuous welded forced main to the lagoon system about 2 kilometers away. That has given us some issues in the last couple of years. We've had to have breaks there. There was no cathodic protection on this ductile iron, which is different than cast iron. Similar, but a little different. Anyways, the cathodic protection is something that you would electronically attach to the pipe, and it takes away the positive and negatives in the soil, so it turns a hot soil into a neutral soil and doesn't attack the pipe. That it has cathodic protection now. That was put in last year's budget, but that pipe, we had a break in it. It was a pitted hole that had sprung out, and it was a chore to fix. It was ductile iron, so you can't weld it. We had to get a coring crew out to core the thrust block underneath big enough so we get our stainless steel clamp on top and hold it. And there's other areas that are starting to show the same deterioration over years of being eaten away. So now that I've got cathodic protection on it, it's not gonna get any worse, but it still has some really weak spots. And its age is there. So we'd like to change that out. So, I mean, the 5 years there, the price on it was about 272,000, sorry about that, 272,000 to replace that. Once that is in, then we were gonna propose to change the forced main from there down our right-of-way underneath the Vermilion River, and then across the road and down to the far end of the lagoon system and drop into the primary cells would be the next move. I mean, I've been with the town for a long time, and that system went in the 70s, and when I started in 85, we're already having repairs and starting to repair that line. It was new technology of the day for an HDPE pipe, and the continuous weld was also a newer design. Realistically, it's performed well over the years, but we're starting to get to a break every 4 or 5 years. We're getting a break every 2, and sometimes we'll get 2 in a row and then be good for a year and a half and then get another one. And as you can appreciate, that is the only system that takes our effluent from the entire town and gets to the lagoon. So when we have a break, it's a big deal. It obviously absolutely takes priority 1. We have a very limited amount of time to repair. Alberta Environment does not want this stuff overflow on the ground. it's a big deal financially. It just is. When we pump it down as best we can, when we shut the switch off and then start to repair, we've got approximately 12 hours when things start backing up into the town, and it just doesn't stop. So it's crunch time. We finally have a break. We set up equipment, we set up access with rig matting, we get everything set, ready to go, and toot sweet quick, because Alberta Environment doesn't give you a week to do this, to give you, if it's this day, you have the next morning to be on fire and doing something. So we pump it down and get at it. So it's a big liability to the town, the way it's sitting. And I think it's done its life. I think it's a good idea that we put a second line in, or a new line in, and,
Okay, thanks, Dale. So,
and by the way, I'm sorry, we'll add in one of the designs that we're putting into this manifold that's going in as a valving system with an outlet pipe that comes up. So in the event, number one, that the lift station fails horribly, we can get a pump and pump it from into the forced main and send it to the lagoons and isolate the lift station. We also, with the same valving system, if the forced main goes down, we can have something we connect to and go overland pump to the lagoon system, which is a lot of pumping and probably 3 inline pumps to get it there on trailers, but it would give us the ability to pump effluent safely into the lagoon system while we're doing repairs. It'll just help us out a little bit.
so that is in the same scope with the force main outlet replacement, correct?
The outlet replacement includes the overland pumping fees, yeah.
So, I personally do believe that we're dealing like a game of Russian roulette here, because the rest, that outlet is steel, and the corrosion was bad enough for it to have one leak, and I don't even wanna address the plastic pipe and how many times it's leaked underneath the river and broke. But for right now, we are really playing a game of Russian roulette with that situation. Like Dale says, the cathodic protection was put in last year, but it's already to the point that it's rotted enough that it could, any minute it could go, and it could last another year or two, we don't know. But I feel that we should be able to find some way within our budgets or within our reserves, or even whatever we need to do for that $272,000 to get that to the point. At least we'll have some protection right at the building, leaving the building, and it's such a deep hole to where we start at there. And having these other places that we can hook onto that and pump directly out of there. And I just think that it'd be prudent of us to think about this. I am going to have a very good conversation with the transportation minister, because that's what this type of work falls under, regarding the replacement of the line out to the lagoon. I mean, we've seen a lot of problems over the years, but at least we can dig them up and fix them. What's going on at this outlet right at the building? I mean, like Dale says, 12 hours and it's backing up into people's houses. We have one way for sewer to leave town. So I would really like council to think about doing this. If not this year, then the first of next year. Let's find a way to finance this, because again, it's just a ticking bomb that's setting in the ground.
You're proposing to move it closer.
I would like to be able to find the money that we could do it in this next year's budget, because to me, you know, we can have the best walking paths in the world. People, you know, use them or they don't use them, but everybody's flushing their toilets and using the water, and if we can't get it out of town, and if we have a wreck, it's gonna be a major wreck. And again, I am more than willing, and I'm gonna go talk to the minister many times about replacing the rest of the system out to the lagoons, and we can work on that over the next couple of years in this council. But to me, this $272 is $272,000 is very crucial to the infrastructure of this community. So I think we should seriously, before we're done with this budget, take a look at how we can get this work done. Go ahead, Councillor Worrell.
Yeah, I would definitely agree, because I've seen what's happened when things go bad when we're talking about sewer. I mean, that's one of the main things. And it can, in the long run, cost a lot more money, because we would have to employ any emergency services to keep it going in the meantime. I believe, Dale, this was one I had asked you about before. This one could not be a reed line because of the pressure and volume in that line. That was correct, right? This was one that would need a replacement, not like a lining system of some sort. It wouldn't be eligible, right?
I don't remember having this conversation about this forced main. being lined.
Yeah, I think I was just wondering whether any of the relining systems worked or whether, and I thought at one point you and I kind of talked about due to the volume and size that this one is one that would need a full replacement versus like a liner type system that really wouldn't work. I think we talked about it before, but
I'm not sure. I know we've talked definitely about the sanitary, like
Yeah.
lines, like gravity fed lines, but we may have talked about this. I'm sorry, I don't remember.
okay. Yeah, so I mean, obviously, if we got to the point of doing it, we would look at any options and weigh some of them out. I have a tendency, and I am always on the side of spending less money, but, your worship, I would almost say that I think that if we're gonna seriously talk about, we should have a discussion beyond the 272. I think that there's a chance that we should explore every avenue available. However, and I don't like borrowing money, but I do think we should even discuss that, whether it should be done as a project as a whole, because I don't think it's getting any cheaper. I don't think that it's going to cost less in 2024 or 2025, but boy, it could cost us more if we have to do something emergent. So I would even be open to having a discussion on the whole thing.
So what I'm proposing to council today is that we look at funding the 272,000 for that steel portion that leaves the building, and having the other valves put in now, in case that other line fails, that we could do an overland pump right out of that valve system. And then we take a look and see how far we can get with the minister first. I mean.
I would agree with that, yeah.
Yeah, so moving forward, I mean, the overland system, I mean, the underland, the pipe that's in the plastic pipe is in the ground now. So when it pressures up, and it does it all the time when it pumps, it's changing the shape of the pipe in areas. So the pipe's going down, so it's getting weak in those spots. So, but we have the ability to dig a hole and put a big clamp on it. And, you know, we've got a lot of clamps on it right now. But this part that's leaving the building is very crucial in getting that back and getting it into stainless. The whole system leaving the building and have these other valves put in. So anything moving forward that we have the ability to pump right out of there into an overland system to get it out, whatever we need to do. Councillor Berry?
Yes, Your Worship, I think I'm very inclined to agree with you on that. I don't think that we can wait until 2024 for that project. I do believe that it needs to be moved forward, and if we can get it done this year, it'd be a safety issue.
Okay. Cliff, go ahead.
Just doing a couple quick calculations here. If we were to borrow 2.2 million over 10 years and add a levy onto the utility bills, it would be approximately $8.50 per month as an additional sewer charge for the next 10 years per utility account.
Okay.
It's an option.
Yep, and I'm willing to explore all options after we talk to the minister.
Would that sum be to do both what's planned for 2024 and 2025?
Yes, that's correct. I rounded it up to 2.2 million.
So what I'm asking for right now is this budget cycle at this moment, and I know Cliff's given us some good information there moving forward, but without asking for a partnership with the province or finding what else is available on that, the majority of this costing is on the pipe to the lagoon. I'm asking right now is if we can get this into the budget, that stainless steel replacement leaving the building. And if we can fit that in somehow, how that works, and we're not sure yet till the end, and then we start working on the Minister of Transportation and look for any other available grants, and then if we can't find them, then we'll have the conversation how we may fund it all at once. And if it's through on a utility bill, like a user pay over 10 years, I mean, we may have to look at that, but I mean, we all agree that this is the most crucial piece of infrastructure that we have in our community, and it's coming to the end of its life cycle, and fixing it, well, there is no more fixing on the steel part leaving the building. When it goes, it's gonna go. Because you can almost stick your finger through it now, so. So that's what I'm asking, and I'm just looking for confirmation that we can fit this in somehow, and that it will stay within this budget, and then we'll work on the rest during the year. Councillor Lemko?
I think it's prudent that we act on this right now, like you say. I don't want to be sitting here, or anybody wants to be sitting here and say, I told you so. This is critical time right now, and we knew this last year and the year before, and I don't think we can delay any longer. I think this is pressing versus some other things that might not be as pressing.
Okay. Councillor Curtis?
Definitely agree. I do have a question. What is the timelines? Is there any kind of backlog to get this material or these parts?
If I had a crystal ball, our current lift station that we're building for Prosperity Park, the HDPE that he's purchasing, he can source that and get it. The SRs and like the more standard water and sewer pipes are back quite a bit. But his forced main material, if you will, he's able to source that easily without much of a wait. So it just really, you can just expect delays, but so far he's doing okay.
That would be my worry, is that you wait and then all of a sudden you pull the trigger and then it's like, oh, we can't get it. So if it's available
least-
now and we think it's important,
Yeah, but at least the trigger's pulled. If it means we wait 8 months or 13 months to get material, at least it's coming.
right.
Well, yeah, and, like with the stainless steel portion, the outlet part, like if we can tell the Dales Department to go and source that right now, I mean, no matter what, I think that is where we're gonna show the no matter what we do, that's gonna go. And the rest is still, we can still fix it. We're digging a hole in the field. Well, we've dug a hole. We've fixed it underneath the river a couple of times too, which is never a good thing, but, so, you're in favor of going ahead and trying to fit this in somehow in this year's budget? Councillor Riddick, how do you feel?
I do think that the lift station is an essential portion of our infrastructure. My question would be, and sorry to be the wrench here, Dale, if this 2024 and 2025 project is important enough to bump up, which it sounds to me like it probably is, would you see it bumping the 52nd Street project that you've got listed for this year, or having them both? Or if you were rank ordering them, I mean, it seems to me that we've asked you for a rank order and you've got them planned out in the next 4 years, 5 years accordingly. If we're changing that, is that going to change your plan as well? Are we adding it to this year?
How much funding is council going to commit? Then I can help
Yeah,
better
so
answer your
I-
question.
Yeah, and that's literally the how many $1 million question here. I guess that's the $3.5 million question. So I guess my query is it more pressing than the 52nd Street project that you put first as the 2022 project?
If people have to slow down to drive on 52nd because it's getting horribly rough, it is far better than not being able to flush.
That answers my question. So let's go with making sure that we can have effluent leave people's houses. That'll be more pressing.
All right, and I just want to stress to council that what we have done at this sewer lift station over the course of many years is scheduled pump replacements, scheduled drive motor replacements. We have increased our technology when it becomes available and makes sense for us to do. We haven't left this thing, and now we're gonna run to the minister and cry that we need help. The town has spent their own money keeping the system up. We did add cathodic protection last year, as I mentioned. We also brought in a company and had them do a non-destructive testing on all the piping inside that lift station, because some of it is cast, some of it is regular black steel, depending if it's a fitting or a straight pipe. And we had everything measured by depth, non-destructively, right, with their testing units. And even though everything in there is from the late 70s, it is really sitting at 85 to 90% of remaining material. I was worried about the bends and the elbows where it's always coming around, it was wearing them thin. It's not the case. We, from the information we've got and the testing we've done, we are in good shape on the inside. You'll see in the operational budget, we got a $4,000 valve to replace, but that's not nothing. It's just maintenance. So I believe the inside of this building and the building itself is in good shape for another 20 years plus, for sure. We do this repair, and we're just, it makes good sense.
Well, and like what we're looking at here, like over the maintenance of the lift station over the years, everything's been done properly there and stuff. This one piece of pipe, we really, on the outlet, we weren't paying a lot of attention to it. There wasn't cathodic protection put on it, and the other pipe that's going to the lagoon, it's coming to the end of its life cycle, and these are things that you know, when they start rearing their head and you see them a couple of times and you start, they'll be having tests done and having people doing inspections of it, it's like, wow, here we are, it is go time on replacing some of this stuff, so. So that's what I'm asking right now, so Councilor Riddick, you're okay that if we see what we can do to fit this 272 into the budget now, and then we're gonna work on trying to come up with a way to finance the, within the next year or two, how we're gonna get that, all the other pipe to the lagoon fixed. Okay,
Yes, I'm in favor of that.
okay, Councilor Barry? You're good?
Yes, I'm definitely in favor of that, and I think Councilor Curtis brought up a good point, that if we proceed right now, we can probably get the materials. If we wait until we have a disaster, we could be sitting with a second disaster, not having materials to fix it.
Okay. Councilor Bullock?
Yeah, I support that. That's a common sense decision there, that one, so.
Okay, and
Let's
Councilor
go.
Orwell? Okay, so Paul, you got another challenge.
Thanks. But just one question then. Is there anything in this capital budget, either from communications, from community services or IP&D, that can be removed or
Oh,
should
yeah, I
we
got
want
a
to be
list, yeah.
removed? That could actually help make up the
Oh,
difference.
for sure, yeah, we definitely, I'm sure that everybody has their, what we could get rid of. You need to know that right now?
I don't need to know that right now, but the first thing that came to mind is it critical to spend $100,000 on signs coming in and out, coming into town and we could delay that for a year and use that 100,000 that's coming out of reserve as part of this project?
Especially since we already taxed the taxpayers $200,000 last year for those two signs that it's setting in a reserve right now. I get it. So I don't really think that we're all ready to put our checks and X's on everything right now. We'd like to see how this will fit in at the end, and then we'll go back through this and we'll prioritize the list from there. I know that's probably not what you wanted to hear, but I know that this is the way council wants to look at it. Go ahead, Cliff.
Just one note of clarification on those highway signs. We did not tax the taxpayers last year. We were going to be taking it out of reserve.
Oh, so, okay, yep, so was just out of the reserve, yeah.
We
Yeah.
didn't take anything out of reserve last year at all for those signs.
So the 200,000.
So it's already there. That money has been sitting there in reserve for a very long time.
Okay, so when we get through this whole budget cycle and what the proposals are, and we're gonna sit down and now we're gonna say, well, this is what the tax increase would be to support this, and this is the shape or what's left in reserves, and what reserves need to be topped up under what was taken out by the bylaws that we have in place, then we're gonna start making some decisions, what will stay and what will go.
Okay?
Is there anybody that wants to go through what we, from Phil's department, to say no to anything in there right now that could help out Paul? Because we could. I mean, Dale's looks pretty straightforward. I mean, he's looking for, you know, he doesn't have, it's the least I've ever seen on his wish list. You do?
Yeah, if we said that there's a possibility to use, there's a firefighter tool reserve, the 30,000 for those Jaws of Life, the portable ones, if that's possible, that's something we could kick out of here. If the funds are already there for it.
So first of all, Dale, you were done?
I'm done.
Okay, so that's what we were gonna see today as far as capital?
Yeah.
Were we gonna get into any operations today?
No, not yet.
So we do have some time. You guys wanna go back through capital and see if there's something that maybe we could all, oh,
Yeah.
okay, so let's have a timeout. Okay, Councilor Riddick, you good with that?
We're gonna continue or we're having a break?
We're hitting a 5-minute break.
Sounds good.
Okay. Okay, so let's find out where we got in the reserves.